Alrighty, good morning everyone and welcome to our first mini class in April. Today is Saturday, April 3rd, and it's also Easter weekend. So we thought it would be super fun. Just have a really straightforward project this week, but as much as we're going to be doing it for Easter, you can use these ideas for any kind of treat bag, whether you put bunny poo, as we are calling it, or reindeer poo come Christmas time. You could just put M&Ms in there, any kind of treat that will fit in your Ziploc bag. And it really also doesn't matter what size of Ziploc bag, because I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to measure and cut your paper so that you can adapt, whether you've got the horizontal snack size bags, or you've got mine's a little bit more of a square today. It's going to be super easy, and unfortunately a tiny little bit of math, but easy math, I promise you. So thank you again for joining in. We will also post the replay on YouTube for you to watch after the fact. At any time, please feel free to unmute your microphones as you need to ask me questions. If you're watching on replay, just pause, rewind, follow along as best you can, and we will have lots and lots of fun. So the very basic thing we're going to start with today is our Ziploc bag, and we're going to create a little backer piece for this using some cardstock and some pattern paper. And I know when I was sending out the measurements, I did not give you very specific measurements because it all depends on what size of Ziploc bag you have. So for me, my Ziploc bag is, helps if you turn your ruler the right side up. Mine is about 4 1/4 inches. I'm going to write that down because I know as soon as I move on, I'm going to forget. 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. That doesn't sound right. 4 1/4. Yep, 5 1/2. That's about the size of a standard card. That's all good. All right, I'm going to take my measurements now. So that was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I suggest that you write this down and we'll do this math together. I want to add a 1/4 inch on either side this way and a 1/4 inch on either side this way. So that's 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to do some math here. That takes me to 4 3/4 by 6. And then I want to add an additional inch on the top and bottom. So I'm going to add another 2 inches. My total math is now 4 3/4 by 8. Hopefully everybody has followed along with that. And part of the reason why I'm adding extra height on here is because I want to add a little flap to go on top. So, and I want to do a little dovetail pennant at the bottom. So I just wanted to add that extra space. So you're going to take the size of your bag, just to go over it one more time, add a 1/2 inch on both measurements, and then add an additional 2 inches just onto the height. Everybody good? Seeing some nodding heads, so hopefully we are doing well with that. So out of cardstock, I'm simply going to cut a piece now that is 4 3/4 by 8. And what color am I going to use? Let's use this nice bright yellow that I've got here. Of course, I dropped some on the floor. So I'm going to measure 4 3/4. Hope I'm wide enough. 1, 2, 3, 4 3/4. Width by 8 inches tall. My marshmallows are getting in the way. Let me move those so I can be more on screen there. So 4 3/4 by 8. Voila. That's my cardstock. Next, I'm going to choose a pattern paper and just go 1/4 of an inch smaller on all of those measurements. So I'm going to go down to 4.5 by 7 3/4. What pretty papers do I have in my stash over here? Ha. Is that going to be wide enough? That should be good. So I said 4.5. Am I going to be lucky? Okay, minus 4 1/4. I'm okay with that just because it's a little bit short by 7 3/4. And this is just going to be a decorative piece that goes over top. So let's go ahead and stick that down. I'm going to use a liquid glue today because I want some really good coverage on this. But you can use any type of glue that you want. Just something that's quick and it's going to cover your whole area. So I'm going to attach it to my yellow piece, just so I have a nice border all the way around. That means I'm going to move it up a bit. There we go. There we go. All right. Now I need my scoreboard. If you have a trimmer or have a blade for your paper trimmer, that's okay for this. We're just doing one simple score line. I'm just going to score 1 inch from the top here, just so I've got that little flap that I want to cover up and hold my treat bag. That's off to the side. Hopefully it doesn't crash to the ground. So I'm just going to fold it with starting with the pattern paper going away from me, but then moving it so that the pattern paper is going towards me. So this is going to be our little flap that holds our treat bag, our little Ziploc bag when all is said and done. The last thing I'm going to do is take my scissors and I'm going to do my dovetail pennant on the bottom. So I'm just going to do a nice deep snip. We gave it an extra inch, so you can go as deep as an inch if you wish. All the way up the center and then across from that corner to the top of that snip. And from the corner to the top of that snip. And I'm not super straight. I may go back in with my trimmer afterwards just to tidy that little bit up. But now your little guy is all ready to go. The last thing we're going to do on our actual treat bag formation is, if you have doilies, these work perfectly. Or if you don't, you can just use some die cut circles. I want to create an extra little embellishment here. Again, if you've got a really wide treat bag, you might want to do a couple. I think what I'm going to do with this one is actually cut the circle in half. So my circle is about 4 inches. So at the 2 inch mark, I'm going to cut it in half. And then that way I can overlap and cover right from edge to edge, like so. And maybe I'll even just fake it a little bit, like so. This is optional. This is just to give a little bit of background for the little bunny decoration we're going to put on top of this. And actually at this point, I'm not going to attach it to this because I'm going to also use this to cover up the staples that we're going to use to attach that treat bag. So for right now, I'm just going to glue these two guys together so that they overlap. If you've got a single one, you don't need to do this step. Like so, and I can trim it down once we get it on the treat bag. So far, so good. Okay, now we're going to use our punches and our white and our pink cardstock to make a little bunny butt. Yes, I said bunny butt because that is what we need for our bunny poo. So I've got some pink and I've got some white. And if you kind of want to watch along to see how this all comes together, it really is quite quick. And this is where it's nice to have a bunch of different punches or dies handy to be able to kind of play with this. So first we need a larger circle for his actual butt. I'm going to do, mine's going to be 1 3/4 inches, but you can always do a little bit smaller or a little bit larger depending on your treat bag. And I just need 1 of those. I'm going to do 2 ovals. Now this one doesn't have a size on it and I kind of wish it was a little bit bigger, but these are going to be for his feet. If you don't have ovals, I will show you what else you can do. Yeah, maybe I'll do that right now. What other circles do I have in here? Oh. So I have, so I want them a little bit bigger. Where's my 1 inch? Okay, so I'm going to do 2 1-inch circles and show you how you can make those into ovals. 1 and 2. And they're going to be a little bit pointy, but that's okay. So you're going to try and scooch that circle over. So you've got lots of, as much of that paper showing as possible. But it's almost like the phases of the moon. We want to have that little bit of a crescent so that I can go like this. And these are what we're going to use for his feet. So it's going to go like that. Try to do the same with the second one. If you want to round off the edges, you can do so with your scissors, but I'm just going to leave them like that. I'm going to repeat that process with a slightly smaller circle, which I had out. So I have 3/4 inch using pink for this kind of the pads of his little bunny feet. And everything is just flying today. So I've been picking stuff off the floor. Wow. Need a little bit more coffee, I think. And I'm just kind of tapping it to hopefully get it in the place that I want it to make that little bunny foot. That's going to go like that. Too much. Or you can use the edge of your pencil and punch. Like so. And lastly, we need something for his cottontail. So once again, I'm going to do my 3/4 inch punch and just do a small little circle. If you happen to have a little flower, you could always do that as well so that he's got more of a fluffy tail. but I'm going to keep it kind of simple. Let me see if I can bring that closer to the camera. So I am simply now going to assemble him onto what would be my doily or my decorative piece. Let's use this glue because I got it out. So attaching the bunny butt first, just kind of centering it here on that decorative piece. Let me assemble his little feet. Now, if you don't want to do his butt, you could do a lot of these same shapes to make his face, because you could take these little feet and turn them into ears. So if you would rather have the bunny's face on here, by all means, you can do that. I just really like that balance because we are doing bunny poop, to have his little butt going down the bunny hole. And because I've got them handy, I'm just going to use a little pop square on his tail so that it sticks up a little bit. Just placing that down. And overlapping. Oh, I got that backing there. So now our little bunny butt is ready to go. 2 more steps, ladies, and then this guy is all done. Making sure there's no questions here. Excellent. Okay, so first thing I have to do is I'm going to fill my little treat bag with my marshmallows. I know Charlie will be digging into these later this afternoon. He loves a good marshmallow treat, or maybe I'll have to make some Rice Krispie squares this weekend. Let's see if I can do this without, probably not. Okay, sorry, gonna do more hands-on. Good thing we haven't done too much messy today. My hands were clean. When you're filling your treat bag, you don't want it to be too full, because then you'll have trouble attaching it to your treat bag. So you just want kind of a nice little layer of marshmallows. Well, one for me. And I did not grab my stapler. So if you don't have a stapler, grab it now. And I'm simply going to tuck that ziplocky part of my treat bag under my flap. Staple it. Of course, there's no staples in the stapler. Okay, we're just going to pretend. So I'm going to staple right and left. And then I'm going to use this little decorative piece to put over top, because that way it hides the staples. If you wanted to do one on the back too, so it hides the pointy bits of your staple, you can. Again, pretending that I have staples, I'm now just going to flip it over, trim off those extra bits. And we are done. If you wanted to put a little tag on it as well, that with a to and from, you could absolutely do that. But this is just a really nice and simple little treat topper, but it gives it that little burst of color. It gives it that little backer so that it gives it a little bit more weight. So especially if maybe you were delivering these to kids in your neighborhood or something, you wanted to just leave it on their doorstep, this has a little bit more weight to it so that it doesn't blow away. So that is it for me today, ladies. I wish you all a happy Easter. Hope you have fun and can get some ideas out of making various kinds of edible poop or use it just as a treat bag. And thank you so much for joining me today.